President Bola Tinubu is urging Nigerians to uphold the values of unity, discipline and compassion beyond Ramadan. Speaking during Eid celebrations in Abuja, the president also defended his decision to remove the Federal Capital Territory from the Treasury Single Account, TSA, saying bureaucratic bottlenecks were stalling development. He commended the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, for pushing the reforms with a caveat that if the FCT Minister fails, he would lose his job. Well, State House correspondent Adeswa Omorowan has more.
President Bola Tinubu joined fellow Muslims at the National Prayer Ground in Abuja in observing the Eid al-Fitr prayers, marking the end of the holy month of Ramadan, a time of reflection and renewal.
We should continue the good deed as taught by the holy month of Ramadan. Care for the vulnerable, the orphans, the less privileged, everything that we have observed, we should not revert to the path that is not acceptable with the teaching of this month.
From the prayer ground, the president returns to the presidential villa for his first Sallah homage, a delegation led by the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, including religious leaders, traditional rulers, security chiefs, and residents of the capital city. Tinubu acknowledges the diversity in the room, praising Wike's governance in Abuja, calling him a symbol of Nigeria's unity.
Today, we are living at peace. The security is improving. There is satisfaction in our houses. The hunger is coming down. Food prices lowering. We are able to go to the market and do business. And our diversity, believe in ourselves, is getting stronger. We're not looking for magic. We are looking for results. We are looking for comfort. We are praying for good health. We're looking for a carer, somebody with their heart, that this job is not about him, about me, it's about every one of us. And the diversity of Nigeria is being proved by Nyesom Wike.
The president also defended his decision to remove the FCT from the Treasury Single Account, recalling how Wike lobbied him for the change, arguing it would accelerate development. Tinubu said he agreed, but not without a political caveat, a remark that drew laughter from the audience in the room.
I remember the day Nyesom Wike came to me and said, please, take us out of this problem of TSA so that I can do more work and achieve more. And I said, okay, show me what you're about to do. And he presented himself, his thinking, his belief. And I threw in my own political jive. Will that give me any opportunity for my party to win election in FCT? I said, I know where you are coming from, your own party or my party. But if this thing goes too much in your own favor, you will lose your job. So, okay, we will settle that, okay. Then I move ahead with it. And everything started changing rapidly. And I started looking at the opening of the rural areas, of abandoned projects, and the residents of the vice president that has been abandoned for years came alive. The health centers are being rehabilitated. The health facilities for the residents of FCT and visitors are being upgraded. Our children's schools are being rehabilitated, rebuilt, refurnished. Thank you. Yes.
Tinubu urged Nigerians to look beyond ethnic and religious lines in their leadership choices and instead focus on competence. For his part, Wike reaffirms his support for the Tinubu administration and pledges to keep prioritizing infrastructure and security in Abuja.
Despite our different backgrounds, we're united in our unwavering support for administration and the renewed hope agenda. This unity demonstrates the collective commitment of the people of the FCT to national progress and development under your visionary leadership. Mr. President, we in the FCT administration remain profoundly grateful for the unparalleled support you have extended to us. None of the significant strides we have recorded in governance and development would have been possible without your commitment to the well-being of the FCT and its residents.
The highlight of the event was the presentation of the goodwill card to the president. Adesoa Omorwan, Arise News.
Well, a lot of conversations stirred up from that outing and, of course, from several activities that took place this weekend. Your take on this, Rafai?
I mean, Eid Mubarak to all of our Muslim brothers and sisters everywhere around the world. And this time is a time for introspection after the very long month of fasting. And fasting means a lot. It means a lot of denial. It means a lot of introspection. It means a lot of restraints. And this year is a very symbolic year because while we're having fasting, we also have Lent going on. So it's one of those years that across all Abrahamic faith, we need to step back and think. And the president's message was very apt. You know, we need that introspection, self-sacrifice. His words exactly, nobody's bigger than Nigeria. But the question I'll ask is, really? Is nobody bigger than Nigeria? Some people in recent times have shown or acted like they are bigger than the country. But we must remind them that nobody's bigger than Nigeria. Talked about perseverance, talked about faithfulness to the cause, a grand cause of nation building, you know, which are very apt messaging. He also, you know, had the pleasure of receiving FCT minister with a delegation of residents of the FCT, Nyesom Wike. And he talked about the work Nyesom Wike had been doing with the single treasury account, the fact that it's been, you know, accounts have been taken off the single treasury account. And it's testament to that fact. I mean, he's done well in many regards in the FCT. But although the people too that have been on the receiving end of some of his developmental strides, like the demolition, will not also say that. But collectively he's done well because there are two sides also to the story. Then he made that, you know, comical quip, which I just felt he was just, you know, giving a jibe that, you know, you pretty much scratch my back, I scratch your back. When I take out TAC, you know, that you have the chance to be able to do your job. Hope I too will also be able to win, you know, the FCT, which is an allusion to the fact that he didn't win the FCT, you know, in the last election and all of that. And that's good. And across the spectrum, political leaders also, you know, did, you know, talk about these things, the likes of Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, and the list goes on. Perseverance, you know, dedication, selflessness, the essence of the holy month of Ramadan. But the question I ask them is, do they really practice what they preach? All these good things they say, they identify with the Muslim faithfuls during Ramadan. Do they really imbibe all of these messages? Because if they truly imbibe all of this messaging, I don't think Nigeria will be where it is today. Just look at the shenanigan that happened over the weekend in Rivers State. with the head of service. His wife crying out that he was kidnapped to Abuja. He said, no, that's not the case. A video circulated about him being in an hotel, reading a statement out. You know, there are some voices saying, oh, read from the script. He's coming out to say, otherwise will see me, I'm in Transcorp. And that back and forth that happened. If our political leaders truly think of selflessness and Nigeria first, would all of that shenanigan really happen? If our political leaders really think of selflessness, will that Uromi incident really happen? That I condemn in its entirety because of the loss of life. And I also condemn any reprisal. So I think these are things we should introspect on, not just saying the good words during a period like this, but also acting what we say.
Absolutely.
Well, President Tinubu and all the other leaders of Nigeria, from Atiku to the National Security Advisor to the governors of the various states, they said what they should say yesterday. That, look, Nigeria is bigger than all of us. 2, that unity is important. That the lessons of Ramadan should go beyond the moment. Now, I found particularly instructive the statement made by the chief imam of the Abuja Mosque, Dr. Sholagberu. That's his name. He said that, look, Ramadan is about compassion. It's about unity. It's about support for the vulnerable. It's about unity. It's about, the biblical thing, doing what unto the other person what you will do unto yourself. Now, I've argued that there is a distance in this country, a disconnection between what is called private morality and public morality. And that, I think, is the major problem that we have in this country. Everybody is very nice. They will say, I'm a Christian, I'm this, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a traditional worshiper. We all worship one God. When you listen to them on the surface of it, everybody will say, do unto others as you will do unto yourself. But do we have that reality in terms of how we relate with others at even personal relationships level? Do we have that in terms of how Nigeria is governed? The problem with Nigeria is that we are a country of hypocrites. In everything that we do, hypocrisy is writ large. The same people who, for example, just to cite the example that came to my head, to go and honor President Babangida, the same people say, no, you cannot honor Nwosu, who was just Humphrey Nwosu, who was just an errand person for the same Babangida. So you have a country that is suffering a crisis of moral turpitude. So that is our biggest problem. So the chief imam identifying that, I think, was on point. The president saying Nigeria is bigger than all of us, he was also on point. And it is for the leadership of Nigeria to demonstrate that Nigeria is bigger than all of us. After all, we once had a president here, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, who said, my ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian, any Nigerian. At the end of the day, he said, okay, if they say I've lost the election, I've lost it. Nigeria is more important. And its successors should also be committed to that ideal. The third point, which is a tricky point, was what President Tinubu said about Nyesom Wike, the Minister of the Federal Republic. The President of the Federal Republic has been consistent in commending Nyesom Wike. And he addressed the point about Treasury single account. Well, again, the point is that the President was on point. The Federal Capital Territory within the Constitution and in terms of operation is designed to operate as a state. Other states do not, give their revenues into the Treasury single account. Now, for a while in this country, that had been the tradition. The FCT being treated as a ministry. Actually, the FCT minister is actually like the governor of a 37th state. Now, what President Tinubu was saying is not new. It's about 2 years old. When he got there, he said, okay, if the FCT is going to be under the Treasury single account, it will, reduce the rate of development. And that the FCT is envisioned by the framers of the law as a standalone administration. And I think, and I don't want to argue the point, since I don't have the details, that perhaps it was because of that decision by President Tinubu, that Wike, with all his problems, seems to have been doing a lot in the Federal Capital Territory. If you look at what he has done in terms of infrastructure development, he has probably done better than persons who occupy that same position with him. So it will look, in retrospect, that decision, which is not new, which I say is 2 years old, is a wise decision on the part of President Tinubu. His statement about if you use it to favor PDP and all of that, I think that's just political rhetoric. He was speaking in jest. And that is also accommodated in politics. I hope someday somebody will do a research essay on how politicians joke and, the meaning and the non-meaning in terms of, how they crack jokes or throw, what did they call it?
Jabs.
Political jabs. So, so that's part of it. But what is more important is that the people of the FCT have benefited more from that decision that previous administrations did not take.
Absolutely. And of course, Eid Mubarak to all of our viewers, our Muslim brothers and sisters. And what stuck out to me was the consistency in the messaging around unity. And I think this is a message that cannot be overstated. We cannot speak of unity enough, especially when we look at some of the challenges that we have been facing, not just locally, but globally as well. The world is at a precipice right now, and continuing to preach these messages is a great starting point for us to hopefully inspire people moving forward. I felt that some of the events that took place after the prayers in the morning were also instructive, indicative of that message of unity. The hosting of the minister of the FCT, for example, of course, we all know the dynamics and the intrigues around it. However, after all is said and done, the body language around it was that, well, with all that's happening, there's a show of unity here. Many will read into it in several different ways, because some will say that, well, this looks like a vote of confidence on this man vis-a-vis all that's been happening in Rivers State. And of course, that's what it looked like to many. Of course, there'd also been some baseless and unfounded rumors about the health of the minister of the FCT, which were debunked when many came out and saw him in good health as he interacted with the president. However, the question is, how much of the governance of this administration is going to be politicized? That's the question on everybody's mind. Is that, yes, as much as the Minister of FCT is proving himself to be a valuable asset to the FCT, it's almost like the law of unintended consequences, where you appoint someone with one agenda in mind and then they surprise you with something else. So Nyesom Wike is proving himself to be somebody who adds value in his own way. He's an executor of projects, and because of that, he's a difficult man to not have around you. But now it begs the question, the body language that people who would have watched that address from Rivers State would have witnessed and would have thought, what does this mean to the current dynamics that are playing out in our state? It leaves much to be thought about. Well, later on in the day, the president also hosted the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, where he also made a statement centered around unity, where he said that when he brought up his name for appointment for that ministerial position, his advisors told him that, no, this man criticizes you. He criticizes you vehemently. He said he was even shown his social media pages where he saw that, yes, truly, Bosun Tijani used to be a huge critic. However, he said that's okay. He will still want to nominate him for that position because he hopes that he can bring that fervor and energy into the spirit of governance. So again, I say this all goes into the conversation around unity. However, on the other side is still the conversation about politicization of governance. And this is a game that President Tinubu is known to play very well. The only concern, because this happens in every administration, of course, a leader will always want to ensure that he has his allies, and even those that may not be his allies, he'll want to keep them very close. But the real question is, are we going to get the best out of this government until 2027? When the FCT was removed from the TSA in 2023, it was October of 2023, several CSOs came and critiqued it and said that this is a highly political move. Yes, we have seen that, in fact, it has translated into development. It has been a good move. However, the intention of it, which is possibly why the president was clarifying that, oh no, the promises around, conversations around politics happened before the FCT was removed from the TSA. But many are saying that this is one of the ways that the APC made inroads into PDP and what we're currently seeing as the PDP crisis. That's number one. So it looks like Nyesom Wike is almost a gentleman who, when you're in a transaction with him, it's a buy one, get one free. You get a developing FCT and you get inroads into Rivers State. Now, all of this aligns with statements made earlier, at the end of last week, by the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who boldly declared that the APC has Kano in the kitty. He said that Kano State is a done deal where the 2027 election is concerned. All of this plays out into political intrigues. And for us, we just have to continue to hold all accountable to ensure that politics and the movement around creating allies and balancing power does not overshadow governance in the road to 2027. Yes, in the instant of the Minister of the FCT, it may be paying off. However, it doesn't always play that way. Governance, for now, should continue to be on the front burner of the agenda.